The one thing about your healing journey that people don't speak too much is how absolutely lonely it is. You know, it's interesting because going through this process, and I mean, this has been a long process and I'm still going through it. Everyone talks about, oh, it's so beautiful. Oh, it's going to be worth it. And yes, it is beautiful and it is going to be worth it. But it is so lonely and sometimes very isolating. And I think one of the main reasons is because growth, true growth, happens beneath the surface. So, somebody who's looking at me that is within my friend group or in my family, even, you may see these people every day, but what you're going through and how you're evolving is so intrinsic to like who you are internally that sometimes when others see you and you're physically present with them, they can't see the internal restructuring that's taking place. And so that's one reason why it feels super isolating, because you might get to a place in your healing journey where you just feel so unseen because they just don't know. And one mistake that I made is I took all of that very personally because I didn't understand that that's a part of the journey, right? Is to feel a little isolated because it's happening internally. Now, if you put you up to like an x-ray and you were able to see how you were growing and evolving internally, I'm sure your friends, your loved ones, they would probably be able to see you differently because they can see what's happening inside. So again, that's one reason why it could feel so lonely. I think another reason is you possibly may be changing faster than your environment. And this is a really tough one for people like myself. I may lose some folks when I talk about my Gemini air sign, but I am very much like, airy, and I'm like, yes, like let's just do it. And so that's so much a part of like who I am. But I think even if you're not like that airy sign or whatever, when you're growing and have made the decision to evolve, just because you made that decision and you are growing at a rapid pace internally, that doesn't mean that your environment is changing at the same time or at the same pace. One of the best things that my first therapist ever told me as I closed out my initial session with her was, she said, Akia, I want to tell you something and I want you to remember this while we do our work. She said, you are the only one out of your circle, in your family, and in your friend group, according to what you've told me, that's in therapy. She said, that means that you're the one that's going to be changing. And everyone else around you, while they may be enlightened or may benefit from some of the things that you learn, one, it is not your job to enlighten. So take that off of your to-do list. Two, while you're in therapy, you cannot expect them to be growing and changing at the same rate that you are going to be growing and changing. So I took that to heart. That helped me a great deal as I was going through the process in therapy. And I also share that with the people that I work with, is that you're the one that's committed to this work, not necessarily anybody else. So you've got to just focus on you, even if you are changing faster than your environment. Another thing that I would say contributes is the whole process of individuation and how both things can be true at once. I think I've said this before, but I live in the both and, the nuance of things, and not so much either or. And so there's a process of individuation when you're growing that takes place, even though you're still a part of like a community, even though you're still a part of a friend group, even though you're still a part of a marriage. That person, those people, you guys chose each other, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have the same path individually that you would have, that you chose to have as a couple. And it's okay to have that individuation. And in fact, it's necessary to have the individuality. And I think that can also feel very jarring for someone who is in the process of growth and self-evolution, because they're not expecting to feel separated from the people that are closest to them. And it feels almost like, oh my God, this is very unstable and uncertain for me, because these are my people. And just because you are individuating doesn't mean that you are separating. It just means that there's a place for you to exist with the person and also by yourself. So, the big question, after I say all of this about loneliness and how isolating it can feel when you're growing, is, okay, well, how do I stop this? How do I stop the pain of this loneliness? I'm sorry to tell you, you can't. And that's as simple as I can be with you. The only way out is through. And the process of growth, there's a lot of going through. In my book, The Precipice of Mental Health, I talk about the movie Shawshank Redemption and how, and I don't want to give a spoiler alert away. If you haven't seen it, please, you should watch it because it's great for this analogy. But one of the prisoners that was sent to prison wrongfully, he was pretty much stuck there for life. And he had accepted the fact that, okay, I'm just going to stay here. Until one day he said, nope, I'm going to take this into my own hands. I'm not going to wait for anybody else to give me the release to go. I am just going to do this myself. So he began to start paving a way through the tunnel, underground, for his escape. Illegal as it was, he was trying to make a way out for himself. My friends, when you commit to the process of growth and self-evolution and you choose it, whether it comes because you've had hardship all your life and you're like, well, damn, I don't feel like I have another choice but to grow. Or you voluntarily said, no, I want to show up differently and I'm going to commit my time to learning how to do so. Either which way, whether voluntary or involuntary, growth is something that we choose. And when we choose it, that is our way, like Andy, the prisoner in the movie, chose to start building a way of escape on his own. And as he started building this way of escape, do you know how much crap he had to go through? He crawled through the muck and filth of the sewage system, things that he didn't even create, things that he didn't put there. He still had to trudge his way through all of that. Do you think that he didn't think about, oh my God, this is too painful, this stinks, I am not loving this, I want to stop. You know what? I think life would just be better in the prison. Of course he thought that. Just like many of us think the same thing when we're on the path to growing and evolution. I know I have thought that. I know I'm like, you know what? I just would love to just stop right now. Because maybe where I was is a lot better. No, the only way out is through. And so we can't minimize the uncomfortability. We can't minimize the pain by any one action. I will say this, the only way a person can actually minimize it is by stopping the resistance of it and just accepting that this is what it's going to feel like. I'm just going to have to let this be uncomfortable. I'm going to have to just let this hurt. And once you stop resisting and you accept that this is just going to suck for a while, and then one day all of a sudden I'm going to see a sunny sky and I would have made it through the end of the tunnel and I'm going to be on the other side of this. Your day is coming, but the only way out is through. And we cannot get through by avoiding the pain and uncomfortable spots. So to summarize all of what you've just heard, this is what I want you to hear. If you remember nothing else, loneliness during healing is often a transitional phase. It is not a permanent condition. Remember that. This is Akia Red. If what I've said to you resonated, please follow me on Instagram at Akia Red for more inspirational content. Subscribe to YouTube or my Substack.